Welcome everyone. I am Amol Chaphekar and today we are going to talk about personality development and skill development. Last session we had talked about resume development and getting you up to the interview spot. I mean getting noticed by a recruiter to make sure that he calls you for an interview. We're going to talk ahead something which is going to be helpful in cracking the interview because resume is just an entry point, an entry ticket, as I told last time, to get that spot for an interview. Now, today's topic, as we are seeing over here, is basically personality development and skill development. We'll go into details of them and we will understand that whatever expectation that you have built while sending your resume or while the person is seeing your resume has to be matched. If there is a resume in which you had written something extra and you're not able to match that, there is a sad chance that you may get rejected. Let's say you have written certain skills which you are not able to justify or which you are not able to answer across. The entry point is all lost. So you need to be very careful when you're talking your personality and your skills very seriously, because beyond the entry point, it is your skills that are going to take you through the interview and later on through in your career for a better future. Let's go through what exactly are we going to see across. While we see a resume based selection, in a resume the person is only able to either see your photo, your qualification, your skill sets on paper, or in certain scenarios, if you really opt for a video resume, he'll be able to see you beforehand before you actually come and sit in front of his table. Now, all this is happening after a resume based selection. He's knowing nothing about you. It's a one-way communication that you did with the recruiter. Now, when we see to this, there are 2 points which come to picture, which is personality and skill. While you are reasoning or while he's asking you certain questions, he's going to gauge these skills. He's going to gauge this personality trait of yours to see whether it is matching your skill sets for a particular vacancy. Now let's go by 2 of them. Let's focus on skills first. One is that skills which you have specifically mentioned in your resume. He's going to ask you that specific question. It may be a certification in, let's say, networking, or it could be a particular course that you have done in a particular segment. He's going to ask you that, where we are talking about anything and everything that you mention in your resume. Now be very careful. I'm taking you back where whatever you mention in your resume, you have to stand up to it. If 1 or 2 skill sets that you have mentioned extra and that you're not able to justify them, it's going to be difficult for you to crack the interview. Second thing is, the role requires a certain skill set, and whether your skill sets are matching to that particular role plays a very important play. Let's say if you're applying for networking, it would be a Linux platform or a Windows platform. Or let's say if you are applying for a HR job, there are multiple streams in HR as well, where you're going to be gauged upon different skills. Let's say if you're talking about in HR, you're doing recruitments, or let's say if you're talking about HR, you're handling people grievances of your employees. It's a different role, and every role would require a different personality type and a different skill set. Now, when you're mentioning a skill set, as I told you, there's a proficiency level. Now, when you talk about a particular skill set, you talk about a proficiency level, and you also have to take care of your complementary skills. Now, let's say if you have a particular skill of, let's say, graphics development or graphics designing, if you can add certain flair to it by a complementary skill for animation, or a complementary skill which would be making a small video, that is going to add to your resume, and that is going to make sure that your resume is going to be a very uplifted one, or your skill sets are going to be helping it out. Second side of it, we talk about personality. Now, when we talk about personality, we are talking about scenarios where I'm not talking about your fitness level or your height, weight, or how you look. Personality is generally mistaken to be all these parameters. We'll go through details about what a personality means and what a personality really counts for. Let me give an example. There are two kind of people: an introvert person or an extrovert person. Two of those personalities. We'll go into details of it, but let me give you a personal example in this case. I am a person who would not be, let's say I'm in a networking meeting, and I am a person who would not be comfortable in going and shaking hand for the first time unless and until I'm introduced to someone. I would be staying back and not talking to. So I'm a bad networker when it comes to getting self introduced. If I'm introduced by someone, I will open out and I'll talk on whatever topic is given or whatever topic is in discussion. Now, in this case, what I used to do is that I used to get along one more team member of ours who is good at networking or who is good at that first initial contact. I cannot go and say hello to a stranger, but that person is able to do that. So, as a teamwork, the person used to get introduced, explain about the company, and then introduce me where I take over. And the person used to find someone else. It was a teamwork by me and my assistant, and we were able to take in more number of people in terms of a networking meeting. So that's about, it is not good or bad whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. It is that particular criteria which suits what kind of job or what kind of work that you are supposed to do. Let's go ahead in this where we're talking about balancing it across. Now, what I mean by balancing is, let's say if you have a wonderful design, a wonderful, uh, let's say a UI, but a very bad code, or let's say if you have a wonderful vehicle design, but a very bad or poor engine, or a wonderful phone design with a very bad tech specs, the balance is going to be off. And only looking good or only presenting good, it's not going to help. The real metal is going to be happening where your skills are going to play the picture. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say if you have a particular skills, it is easy to get a job. It's comparatively easy to get a job. With the competition pushing in, you need to continuously upgrade your skills. Now, as I know that there will be some people who are looking for a job, and there will be some people who are actually having a job and they would want to study and understand personality as well as the skill development part of it. Now, in both cases, when if you're doing in an existing job, you're competing with your colleagues. Now, that's a healthy competition. I don't say that it is bad. But if you upgrade yourself or upgrade your skills, that's going to have and put an edge for you. At the same time, if your personality is bad, let me give you one more example over here. There was an employee in our company who was very good. I mean, he was technically very, very, very good. And he was not able to, he had a slightly weak personality or introvert personality. So someone of our team member used to talk on behalf of him. And they had a good tuning across. So it is not a matter how skilled you are, it is about how your particular profile or a skill is showcased by the way of your personality. Let's dig deep into what a personality is. And believe me, if you're studying, if you're looking for a job or having an existing job at a junior, senior, or a management position, you need to upgrade yourself. If you don't upgrade yourselves, it's going to be very difficult for you to sustain in this competitive world. I'm talking about skills which would be changing. Let's see it in the further slides. Now, when I talk about personality, and as I talk to you that it is not about height, weight, fitness, looks, and so on. So, what is personality exactly about? There's a famous, or rather, there's a very common indicator which is known as Myers-Briggs type indicator. There's an online test available for this. Now, you can just Google it out that you want to go for a test. There will be certain objective type of questions, and which is going to put up your personality in a very structured format. They're going to tell you what type of personality you are. And by research, it has been identified there are 16 types of personalities, and these personalities are typically suitable for a particular job or profession. Now, let's see what are those parameters on which the personality is defined. Let's say one is extroverts, second one is sensors, introverts, intuitive, thinkers, judges, feelers, and perceivers. So these are around 8 plus 8, 16 types, and a combination of them. It could not be that you are only one type. It is a combination. Let's say it could be ENFP. So that judges and tells you that, okay, you are fitting in this category where your personality trait is, let's say, ENFP, or it is typically TJIS. So that's where we are talking about how to understand your personality first before you try to improve or match it to a profession. You may select a wrong profession which is not matching to your personality. And when we're talking about that, either you have to upgrade your personality skills in that matter, or else you will have to switch to a role which is more suiting to your personality. So I would advise, and I would want every one of you to take this test just to understand where you are or what type you are. If you can understand what type you are, you can either change, improve, or you can typically modify it as a skill to match your work profile. Let's go one step ahead in this. Now, I would want to mention specifically over here that there is nothing good or bad. Let's say, as I give you an example, that I am an introvert, but my office assistant is an extrovert. Now, both things are required, where my skill sets are going to be helpful in getting the business closed or business transactions done. But the skills of my office assistant are going to help in typically making sure that I get that foot in the door, and I make sure that there is a opening or a chance for me to talk about the tech part of it. So there's nothing good or bad. Even when you go for this test, this is typically known as MTBI personality type or MTBI personality test. You can search it in Google. There'll be n number of Google form type of scenarios where you can punch in and answer certain questions and you get a clear answer to it. Let's go one step ahead in this, where we're talking about skills. Now, what I mean by skills are, there are certain skills which are common, which are most required, and there are certain skills which are related to your profession. Now, any profession you go, may it be marketing, may it be let's say you being a doctor or a nurse or anyone across, there are certain skills which are common, and there are certain skills which are your profession oriented or your work oriented skills. Let's say coding or understanding a database is a particular profession oriented system. But these skills which I'm telling you and which I'm going to emphasize on in this particular call is where you have to focus thoroughly, and these are going to just keep on adding. These are going to be refined as you progress in your career. Let's see what these skills are. First skill, if you see over here, is time management. Now, what I mean by time management is, this skill applies to all professions. Let me give you an example in here where I was fortunate enough to work with the vice president of a Fortune 500 company, and me along with my colleagues had this peculiar sense that, okay, this guy is very busy. This guy is so busy, and how does he manage time and be free all the while? So we asked him a specific question: how do you manage time? Give us an example or give us certain insights so that we can take it right. So that was 2001. Just graduated guy. We could not understand the corporate world well, but we wanted to learn from him. So he said that I do two things, and which I've been following since then. He said that anything which is communication oriented, which I'm going to talk to people, which I'm going to be interacting with people, I keep it in office hours or I keep it at home. Anything which relates to communication is dealt when he is transiting, maybe moving from office to home, home to office, or from one place to another, or one office to another. What I mean by that is, he used to cover his phone calls, he used to cover his emails, texting in that transit patch. So when he is actually at office or actually at home, he's spending that quality time with his employees, his teammates, to understand and to figure out better things. If he's in office and he's checking his emails, if he's in office and if he's texting someone or he's calling someone, that means he's not utilizing that time well, which he could utilize when he's traveling. Now, these guys had chauffeur driven cars that time, but even in today's age, when we have Bluetooth, we can always get some calls covered, get some follow-ups done. Those follow-ups are those things which are going to get you in place. Now, when we are talking about the second thing, which is adaptability. Now, what I mean by adaptability is how you adapt to a situation, because things are going to be changing every now and then. It's not going to be same. It's not going to be a normal 9 to 5 job and things remain on the same patch. Let's say give you an example of a cricketer. Now, a cricketer has to play cricket in different zones, different time zones, or different environments, or different climatic conditions. Now, it is very important for a cricketer to adopt and adjust. That is what I mean by adaptability. It could be the same thing in your work. It could be the same thing with a particular client. The client may not be always soft spoken. The client may be a little rude, but the client may be to the point. So you need to adapt to that situations to make sure that uh, things are managed well. So adaptability is one more skill of a kind which is going to help you through your professional as well as your personal life. This is going to take you ahead. So all these skills which I'm focusing on or emphasizing on are specific skills for any profession, and they're going to be brushed up again and again, so that once you reach a level of management plus, these are the only skills which are going to help you progress further. Anything which is related to coding or a specific tech related item is going to remain for a particular period. If you want to climb up the ladder of management, or if you want to climb up the ladder, you need to adopt these skills and you need to brush these skills. Next, I'm going to talk about teamwork over here. So when I talk about teamwork, as I told you, not everyone is of the same skill set. There are people having a different skill set. Let's say if you have a graphic designer, if you have a coding guy, if you have a UI guy, these are examples of let's say an IT company, a non-IT company. Let's say if you have certain team members in your let's say a mechanical company where these guys are going to have certain skill sets. Now you need to make sure that your skill sets are complementing each other. There is no shame or there is nothing which is wrong which we say that, okay, can you do it for me? Can you do the things which I am not able to do, or can you, or you can do it better? So if you match a team in such a way that everybody does what best they can, it is going to be very helpful in getting the project through very fast. And the team management or team building or teamwork typically makes you make sure that you are progressing in the right way when it comes to management or when it comes to managerial skills. Next, I'm talking about leadership over here. So what I mean by leadership is, let me give you an example. Examples helps well. There was a guy in one of our team which was very proactive. He was a leader category kind of guy because he always wanted to step up. He wanted to step up and see that uh, can I do it. So if you are a team member, you just need to make sure that you step up and ask to your senior, can I take up, can I take the lead? If you don't ask, never going to be given that particular lead in your profession or your life where you can take charge of it. Take charge. You have to step up. Unless and until you step up, you're going to be in that same colleague's line, and there is no harm in stepping up. If a colleague would say to you that अरे ये हमेशा हाथ ऊपर उठाता है, ये हमेशा बॉस के सामने हाईलाइट होता है, there is nothing wrong in it. Just because your colleague is not doing it, there is no harm in you stepping up. It is not known as something which you are trying to please your boss. Is just taking up that opportunity or that leadership in the job that you're doing. That's going to make you progress. Interpersonal skills, as leadership skills are important, interpersonal skills are also equally important. When you talk about your teammates or your subordinates, or you're talking about people whom you're interacting on a daily basis, maybe the chai wala. Let's say in an office, I was in office, maybe I was a junior, where in 2001 or 2002, newly joined. And there was a scenario that the chai wala used to always give me tea first. Not even the MD, even if he's standing right besides me. Now, I'm not saying that it is an interpersonal skill, that is a ratio that we build with a person. One day the MD asked, "Hey, I'm standing here, why are you giving him first?" And it was a joke kind of scenario. But he didn't get offended. It was jokingly done. But you need to have those interpersonal skills so that people step up to support you, people step up to stand by your side. And those interpersonal skills, it is not a book that you can read or understand. It has to be practiced. Let's go one step ahead, which is communication. I give you one example of communication. A very good tech guy but could not communicate is not going to help him in typically pitching in whatever in his mind to the person who is willing to do it, or to the person who is willing to explain it out. If you cannot explain things, it's going to be very difficult, how much ever good or how much ever talented you are. So communication skills, I'm not talking about the language part of it. It is about communication. It could be a verbal communication. It could be a body-based communication. But you need to communicate. You need to convey whatever is in your mind to the right point, to the right perceiving factor. You should conceive it well. Whatever you're trying, whatever is coming through your mind should be directly, unaltered way communicated ahead. Now, there's a thing which we talk about problem solving. There are team players, it would be there in your team as well. There are some people, who have a problem for every solution. You come up with a solution, you tell them, okay, this can be done. Some guy will come and say that, oh, ऐसे कर सकते हैं मगर इसमें ऐसा होगा. There are people who would always try to find a problem in a solution, and there are people who would always want to find a solution to a problem. If a problem is placed in front of you, try to see it from a perspective that your mindset is solution oriented. Don't think from a perspective that अरे ये करेंगे तो ये होगा. Try to see that ये करेंगे तो क्या होगा. Let that step be taken, or let that thought process be evolved in such a way that you are not looking it from a critical angle part of it always. You're looking for a problem where you can give a solution. Believe me, in every team there are people who would, you say something and they have a problem ready for your solution, and that's what we want to avoid to be. So if you want to be taken positively, a manager or a boss would always take you positively when you are at least attempting a solution, not always contradicting to a solution. Let's go one step ahead. We are talking about creativity over here. Now, creativity comes in different formats. Specifically, those guys who are into the field of graphic design or video making or such creative skills, they are typically required to brush this every now and then. Let me give you a small example, a home-based example. When you're cooking food, there are some people or some families who would cook food and get an entire kadai on your table, and that's the food that they're serving. There are some people who would, remove the rice or the noodles made in the kadai into a bowl, and then they'll serve it as a bowl. Some people would ideally garnish it. Some people would come with a plating part of it. They'll put in the noodles, they'll put in some sauce over there. So this, we cannot say is creativity. It is about presenting it correctly. It is generally mistaken. No, presenting it correctly is having a certain flair of creativity. But when you're talking about creativity, it is about something slightly more. There's a very thin line between presenting it well and presenting it creatively. And all these skills which I am talking about are those skills which you're going to be requiring the most of the times when you cross that level of a managerial plus. You're not going to be asked how good you are at coding, how good you are at 3D modeling, how good you are at an operation. You're going to just make sure that these skills are required. It's about people management. Work ethic, if we say in this case, there's a lot which can be talked about work ethics, but I'll talk about only 2 or 3 specific things. Whatever you commit, deliver. Make sure that even if nobody is watching you around, make sure that you work to the best of your ability. That's going to help you. Now, these skills generally go unnoticed, but in the longer run, they're going to definitely help you from being a better person or a better employee, you can call, or you can say that you are a person who would ideally be valued as a ethics-based person. It could be in sales negotiations. It could be anywhere. Make sure that you follow these ethics. It's a long and huge topic. I would not cover it now, but that is required. And then comes a scenario where these skills again are managerial plus, and you need to know the skills if you have to step up the organization. If you don't want to step up the organization, you want to do coding for your lifetime, or you want to do 3D modeling, or you want to be on that line, you need to brush up your skills which are that skill oriented scenarios. But if you want to step up in your organization, these skills are going to be saviors for you. These skills are going to be helping you out. More you work on these are not profession dependent. Even if today you say that, okay, I want to quit IT and I want to join something which is in the food industry, these are going to help you out. It's not that you change your profession and these would not help you. These are the things. When you talk about detail oriented approach, there's a guy in our office. Whenever I ask him a question, okay, iska kitna costing hoga? He comes up with a approximate figure. He says, okay, sir, 20 lakh rupees plus or minus. And there's a different guy, when I ask him a costing, he's got a sheet ready with him. Put bill of material is what is shown to me, saying that, okay, sir, itna costing ho raha hai. This is our margin. We can go a little bit plus or minus, and we can negotiate with these vendors. Now there are two different people. I push up the same question to both of them, and I get two different answers. Now, whom am I going to be inclined towards? I'm going to be inclined definitely towards the person who is having a detailed oriented approach. Even if it is required, not required, it is a point where he is detailing it out. He is at least understanding himself, not a thumb kind of thing. There's a thumb rule. Okay, sir, itna kilo ka hoga, andaz hai itna cost ho jayega usko. So that's not what is a detail oriented approach. And these 10 skills, I've spent maximum time on this because these 10 skills are going to be helping you everywhere. Let's go to the next part, which is a specific profession oriented skill. Now, when I mean by a specific profession oriented skill, let's say if you're into glass blowing or making glass murals, you would need a skill which is required for that. If you, let's say, if you're a firefighter, you would need skills. If you're an army guy, you would need those skills. So for every profession, apart from the 10 skills that are mentioned, there are certain skills which are required. Now you talk about a chef part of it. You need to cook different variety of food. Let's say if you're an Indian specialist or if you're a Chinese specialist, you need to know that skills. You need to understand the ingredients, and that is the detailing which goes into a professional specific profession based skill. And that's important because both the skills are going to go hand in hand. If you're just managerial, uh, it's not going to be. You need to understand to the down level that, okay, the person who is working on that machine is going to be having certain skill sets. If he is not there, can you take up a little job on that? Can you guide him if you're not knowing what is happening? If you've never done coding and you are just sitting up as a manager, it will be very difficult for you to understand the psychology of that person or to understand what he will say that, okay, boss ko kuch malum nahi hai. He'll always say that, okay, you directly come to become a manager. You need to understand that specific professional skills. There are n number of skills, right from, let's say, you talk about nursing to a surgeon to any profession. Majority of you who are into work, let's say we talk about a skill which is Excel or a PowerPoint skill. Now that I can call as a semi-specific professional skill, where you're good at Excel, you're good at writing formulas in Excel, not just punching in numbers and putting a table to it. Try to learn that. It's going to help you if you are from maybe in an accounting line or an auditing line. So every skill would ideally be different and differently required for a particular profession. Let's go one step ahead. Now these are different professions. If you are a swimmer, you would need a different skill. If you are a trainer, you would need a different skill. So these are different skills which are required for different people ahead. Now let's go back to personality type. I told you that there are n number of personality types, and there are not n number, there are 16 types, wherein it can be categorized and can be correlated with a profession. Now this sheet or this slide would ideally give you an insight about what that skill set or what that particular personality trait is suiting you. Once you go through your test, just make sure that you go through this slide once again. Once you go through this slide, you can understand, okay, what is that particular criteria or what is that particular profession that your inherent personality is suitable or capable of. Majorly, these tests are nowadays done at school levels, where they are trying to select the next line of action. When they are trying to go for a college, they go for a specialization. And this is important. If there are certain inherent skills or there are inherent personality type which has been built based on your upbringing, and you cannot just completely change it. It is not about learning a particular skill upfront. It's not an injection that can be given. It is how you have been brought up. It is how you have seen the society. It is how you have reacted to a particular problem or how people have reacted to you. That's how you're built. Take the test for sure after this session or anytime when you have time, and just make sure that you then compare, am I fitting that particular right profession that I'm currently in, Do I need to change the profession? It's a heavy call, but can I add certain skill sets? Can I add my networking skills so that I would not be introvert? I would at least be able to introduce myself. I will be able to openly talk about myself. Make sure that that skills are attached and added to the profession that you're seeing over there. Just to give an example, an ISTJ would be ideally a management, administration, law enforcement, or accounting guy. That personality suits this particular profession type. An INFP would be ideally good at counseling, writing, or arts. Now, there's a good amount of research which has gone in when they come up with these results or personality types. And believe me, once you go through these personality type tests, you'll understand that yes, it is correct, or this is what could be there. That's what we are looking forward to understand, because we need to understand ourselves. We can only improve when we know what we are. That's what can be done. Let's go one step ahead in this. Skills which are work or role dependent. As we saw in the previous slide also, there are specific professions and specific skills. Those skills which we saw are evergreen. I mean, any profession, you should keep on practicing, keep on developing them, read books. Now, why read books? Why people say, "Well, books padho yaar. You should read books." Why do people say that? Or you'll say, surf the internet or explore things, travel countries. Why is that said? Now, I'll give you a small example that makes you powerful. Now, what I mean by power, let's say, what is going to happen when you're going to explore more? When you're going to explore more, if we see, I made a note of it also, when you're going to explore more, it's going to increase your knowledge. When you're talking about knowledge, you can say that knowledge is a function of what you read, what you listen, what you have gone through. So if you're exploring the world, if you're traveling, you're going to listen more things. If you're reading a book, if you're reading blogs, if you're reading certain content, if you're watching this video, it is basically a content that is going to increase your knowledge. So you can say that knowledge is a function of what you read, listen, hear, or see. Going one step ahead, what is knowledge going to help you in? Knowledge is going to give you options. Now, if you have more knowledge, let's say if you are from a mechanical industry and you said, okay, I have good knowledge about bearings. That means you got a choice of a selection of a bearing for a project that you're coming up with. Let's say if you have more knowledge about rapid prototyping, or if you have more knowledge about a specific coding type, it's going to give you more options. So we can say that option is a function of knowledge. Yes, we can say that. You explore more, you get more knowledge, and with that you get more options. Now, what happens with options? When you have more options, you have more choices. Now, yes, you have more choices, because let's say if there are a good number of options given to you, you're more powerful. Let's say if you have offer letters from 4 companies, are you not more powerful? Yes, because you have more options. You can negotiate well. You can have, or you can be at the point where you can be decisive about which particular offer to be taken. On the reverse side, if a company has more candidates and you typically threaten, "अच्छा मैं कल छोड़ के चला जाऊंगा," so it's going to be okay, चले जाओ. If there are more options, your value is going to be going low. So it is about power. You will have more power when you explore more. That gives you more knowledge. That particular knowledge is going to give you more choices, and that choices are going to be giving you options. And that option is ultimately going to lead you to more power. Now, power need not be specific in about muscle power. It is going to be about the position that you would demand, or the position that you hold. That is power. If you have more power, and how is power connected? Power is connected by a series of functions to the knowledge that you gain, which is done by exploring. Now, that's why people say read more books, read more on internet, or read more things. That's what I mean by power. Let's go one step ahead. I hope I'm being clear in this, where I could relate knowledge, because knowledge and skills are going to be going very close. If you have more knowledge for a particular skill, it's going to help you out. Now we are talking about current and future. Now, if you talk about skills which you currently have, or which are the current skills, Let's say there's some technology which you know, or there is some coding specification that you know, which in the current environment, that's going to help you survive. And if you learn something which is going to be coming in future, you need to understand it. When I say explore, explore what is the potential in future. Just don't explore what is available now. If you, I know you cannot time travel, but you can always make sure that you can see what is in future and work accordingly. If you learn certain skills which are going to be coming up in the near future, maybe 2 years down the line, 1 year down the line, there's going to be less saturation over there. When we're talking about less saturation over there, we're talking about less number of people having that skill. If there are less number of people having that skill, automatically your value in that particular chain is going to be increasing. So if you are just learning what is currently available or what is currently there, it's going to help you survive. But if you learn what is going to be there in future, it's going to help you grow, because not everyone would be so inclined to learn what is coming next. What is coming next is going to be the future. Now, when we are talking about two things over here, where we're talking about personality and skill. Now, consider yourself as a coin, a currency. If you say that there's only personality on both sides, but no skill, do you feel that coin will work? No, it would not work. So that coin would be seen well, but the moment they flip the coin on the other side, they want to say, oh, yes, there is personality here. Only a balloon. It's this guy is not having any skills across. Now, that's going to be landing you in a difficult situation. So the previous slide which I told you, you need to maintain a balance of your skills and your personality in such a way that it suits your work. At the same time, it helps you grow in the organization. And if you say you have only skills but no personality, or rather a personality which is not matching your profession, still your value in that company or organization or that particular society is not going to be uplifted well. You need to make sure that this 1 becomes 2, this 2 becomes 5, this 5 becomes 500. How is that going to become? That is going to be becoming because the more knowledge you accumulate, the more skills you accommodate in process where you learn from it. Now, this is what I wanted to speak in this entire session across, where you need to balance things out when you are personality and your, and if you don't polish your coin every now and then, it's going to be an old coin. Nobody likes an old coin. Let's say you go at a toll booth in earlier days, or you go to a particular shop, you'd always prefer that new shiny coin. And that's the flair part of it, apart from the personality and the skill. Now, apart from the personality skill, if you're not shining around, if you're not visible enough, it's still going to be difficult. So if you need to be visible, you need to be shining, and you need to have that medal, you need to have that skill pack or a personality pack. So as I end this particular session, I just want to make sure that you go through your personality test. That is very important. You need to understand who you are, where you relate to, which work pattern you relate to. It is not just because in your college days your colleague or your friend was joining a particular course and you just tagged along with him. That may not be your personality, but that does not, or that should not hold you back. Anything that you could be good at can always be taken ahead. So with this, I would like to end this session. I guess my time is also up now, and I'll be open to questions. I'll be open to things. You can search for Amol Chaphekar on LinkedIn. I would accept your LinkedIn request. We can communicate further, and wishing everyone a very best of luck. Thank you.